guys, Crystal Cycle Source. We're here in the Source Garage today. We're going to attempt our first time at lacing and truing a wheel. We have here's a 21-inch stock replacement wheel from Paco. It comes with the dual flange as if it was going to run regular brake setup on the front. This is going to be for our 49 Pan project, so we want to switch it over to this JR Cycle Supply spool hub. This configuration comes with a 3/4 ID bearing with a metric OD, so we had to wait for our bearings to come in. We've pressed the bearings into the hub now, and we're ready to start lacing the wheel. So we're going to take this wheel apart. We've ordered some replacement spokes from Buchanan. We have two different size spokes here, determined by the top, the actual throat. You can see one is a little bit deeper and more of an angle. This is going to depend on whether they get placed inside or outside. So we had to take a little break. I actually had to wait for my buddy Rob to get here and help me figure this out. We have our pattern figured out, which turns out, after being led the wrong direction, it's the same as a stock 40 spoke rim would be.
Yeah, 40 spokes is 40 spokes. 80 spokes is a different pattern. When you get into the different patterns, you're getting into different angles.
Provided you're dealing with a stock rim. Because
right.
If I had some kind of exotic custom rim here that didn't have the specific flanges going in the directions that we have here, you could configure those any way you want to, right?
Right.
You could do 2 cross, 3 cross, 5 cross.
You can have a different pattern. You know, somebody can be very creative, but
yeah.
it takes a very creative mind to do it. But the big thing is, you got to make sure whenever you're putting these wheels together, you want to look at your nipples and which direction these angles are going. You have an outside angle, and then you have the other side angle. So that whenever you get those angles worked out, you're in pretty good. You have a pretty good idea where you're going.
So what we got here is, you know, obviously spokes going in different directions. The short throat, or the ones that you see going this way, behind it comes the deeper throat, the 5/16 throat, works in the opposite direction. We have everything down to where there's even thread pattern all around, and our flange is pretty much centered and squared. So we're happy with this. Only drag about this is now we have to take this whole thing back apart, group all those spokes together, feed all the spokes for the other side together, and then start all over and put this wheel back. But at least now we're square on our pattern. We know which way we're going, and we know what we're going to end up with. And believe it or not, this ridiculous thing is going to make a wheel somehow. So we're going to lay this thing down in here and try to start figuring out how to put this wheel together. Okay, man, here's the deal. I wish I could show you guys everything that I went through to get my wheel to this point, but I honest to God can't. And all I can tell you is I've been at it out here for a couple hours. I've gone back and forth to the point that I had 2 spokes left, back all the way down to completely apart again, and this is definitely an art. That's why they call it a wheelwright. Like back from the days when there was wagons and shit, guys used to hand build wheels. This is still that kind of an art. It's pretty cool to learn. I'm gonna stick with it and see if I can't get better over the years. But now that I figured it out one time, it'll be a lot easier to do in the future too. But we're gonna take this wheel now and throw it on our truing stand, which ought to be really interesting. And here you can see our pattern that we ended up with. Flanges basically centered, so I'm hoping we're not real far off.
Now right now, Chris has got this wheel mocked up pretty well, and what we're going to do is just a few thousandths out whenever you spin the wheel. First thing we're going to want to do is get this wheel, get an idea how close it is. We're spinning that around. Yeah, we're off about 15 thousandths there, 20 thousandths, and this is not what we're doing here. We're just trying to find our 0 point. We're looking for the part of the wheel that's the straightest at this point in time. Okay, and then the rest of this all has to do with how much patience you have, because every time you change one side, you're changing the other side. When you're adjusting the spokes and you're trying to get down to a fine adjustment, if you got to move left, you got to loosen up the opposite side spokes so that it will let it move left. If you got to move right, obviously you have to do the other. We're off at about 8 thousandths right there. At that point, we need to, as you push the gauge away, you see it's moving away from the 0, so we have to take the rim the opposite way, which means we have to loosen up this side and tighten up the opposite side. And you want to go about 3 spokes from where you're at, loosening. And then you want to start tightening. The further you're off, the more you want to loosen it. Go about a half a turn at a time. It's usually a pretty good indication of whether you're going the right way or not. I've been working on this wheel for about 20 minutes. Like I said, Chris had this thing in really nice shape to start with. But we're within 3 thousandths all the way around the wheel, and the crankshaft, if you can get it within 2 thousandths, you can use it. So nothing to it but to do it, man. Be patient. If you run out of patience, walk away, go do something else. I'm sure there's something else you're working on. If you're putting a wheel together, there's something else you can be doing. So